Update, brought to you by Simcox Advocates, advising businesses and families since 1949. Visit simcox.com or call 690 300. Manx Radio's Update with Andy Wint.
Pastor Mike, good evening. It's 5:30. This is Update for Wednesday, 27th of March, 2024 from Manx Radio. 30 minutes looking at the latest news on the island, background to that news and sport, the business, travel updates from the newsmakers in person. This evening, Mr. Speaker's put his foot down in Keys. Tesco's replaced ShopRite on Victoria Road, Douglas. The latest on removing the Bishop's vote in Tynwald. Jade Burden, the Isle of Man's first female pro boxer. And don't drink and drive this Easter weekend.
Man Benham for all your business and legal needs.
But first of all, at 29 minutes ahead of 6 o'clock, the update news headlines. Fastamai Chanel Suku.
Fastamai. Strix has announced a partial closure of its Ramsey factory. The company told Manx Radio the move will result in a number of redundancies. However, the specific number cannot be confirmed at this time. A group of protesters have held a demonstration in Douglas to highlight the issue of online gambling addiction. It's hoped it'll start a conversation about the industry's place on the island. And proposals to remove the Bishop's vote in Tynwald have been delayed once again. The bill was due for consideration in the House of Keys this week, but they'll now be read later next month. In international news, at least 5 people have died in eastern Germany after a bus travelling from Berlin to Switzerland came off the road. 53 passengers and 2 drivers were on board the service. There are calls for the UK government to ban bonuses for the bosses of water companies polluting England's rivers and seas. Data from the Environment Agency shows there were 3.6 million hours of spills last year. And Godzilla x Kong, The New Empire, hit cinemas this weekend. The film, which is out on Friday, is the sequel to Godzilla vs. Kong and a continuation of Legendary's Monsterverse. Those are your headlines. News at 6.
Secure tomorrow today with Man Benham's private client team. Manx Radio weather with Manx Glass and Glazing.
Karamaya, thank you. Chanel from the Ronalds Way Met Office. We got a strong wind warning in operation for the North Irish Sea. State of sea moderate. And the 3-day weather. This Wednesday evening, showers will clear overnight in a fresh easterly, then more rain by dawn, down to 4 degrees. For Maundy Thursday, cloudy with periodic rain on a moderate to fresh easterly, top temperature 9, overnight minimum 5. For Good Friday, mostly dry with sunny periods and a southerly breeze and 12 degrees top temperature. Sunset this evening at 14 minutes before 7. Low tide is at 4 minutes to 7. High water 9 minutes before 1 a.m. The sun rises tomorrow morning at a minute before 6. And low water 13 minutes past 7.
Manx Glass and Glazing don't just do the big jobs. It's easy and cheap to repair broken greenhouse glass at Manx Glass and Glazing. For greenhouse glass cut to size, call 674 573.
No delays reported at Ronalds Way this evening, and the motor vessel Manxman docked about 20 minutes ago. The Speaker of the House of Keys has underlined his authority during a heated debate in the House. Health Minister Laurie Hooper, MHK, was being questioned over his criticism of a Health Services Consultative Committee report. MHK's Chris Thomas and Julie Edge found their questioning of Mr Hooper interrupted.
On the 31st of October, the word used about the inaccuracies in this report was egregiously incorrect. Does the Minister really mean that the conduct of the HSSC lay members...
Mr Thomas, I'm going to stop you there because we're going to get into matters of conduct, and I've told you that that is not something that I'm willing to accept today. I'm not going to have anyone's conduct challenged, and I emailed members yesterday to remind them of this, and I'm going to be quite firm about it. Yeah. Now, final supplementary. Now, you've had your opportunity for 3 questions, Mr Thomas. Final supplementary, Ms Edge.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I'm glad to see that you're putting the rules down today. You don't always, but I'd just like to...
Honourable Member,
sorry,
Honourable
Mr
Member,
Speaker.
Honourable Member, resume your seat. resume your seat, honourable member.
For the Minister.
I'm afraid you don't, because if you're going to challenge the chair, you're not going to be entitled to ask questions. I do always apply the rules. I apply them equally and fairly to all members, and I'm not having the chair's authority challenged. That was a direct challenge to the chair's authority. So we will move on. We will move on. No, I am not giving you the chance after that to ask your question.
Mr Thomas later tried to pursue the theme in a motion, but was cautioned by Mr Speaker as to what he could say. If you're heading out for a drink this Easter weekend, make sure you got a plan to get home safely. The message from the constabulary after 5 individuals were arrested for drink or drug driving last week. Head of the Roads Policing Unit, Sergeant Elliot Butler.
There was a bit of a peak at the weekend, which we do sometimes see. You'd expect on an average week, if I was to pluck a figure out, let's say 2 to 3 arrests for that in an average week, and probably closer to 2 most of the time. You'd expect them to be closer to the weekend, because that's obviously when more people might tend to drink or take recreational drugs. As an island, I don't think there's necessarily a poor attitude towards it. I think as a whole, everyone's very much against drink and drug driving. I don't think anybody goes out at the start of a night with the intention to go, oh, tonight I'm going to drink and drug drive. Obviously, I can't say that for every case, but I'll say a lot of it is very much down to circumstances throughout that night. They have more than they expected to drink, and then before you know it, they ring up, can't necessarily get a taxi, or they miss the bus. So I don't think they necessarily have the attitude at the start of the night to go that way, but then potentially towards the end of the night the judgment might be impaired, and then they make a poor decision. There's plenty of taxis, and sometimes you might have to wait for that taxi depending on where you are, but I think certainly waiting for a taxi is a better option than ending up seriously injured or injuring someone else in a traffic collision. It's absolutely devastating, both for the victim and the family. I've been to ones where they've been very unfortunate, and I've been to ones where they've been fortunate and walked away from it. However, it still has an equal impact in terms of on that person in question, and it's a far spread impact. You look at the impact it has just on the health service as well as a result of that, and I think that's why I'm really keen to get that message out there and to really deal robustly with people who drink and drug drive.
The only radio station that's Manx, and we're proud of it. Celebrating 60 years, this is Manx Radio.
The start of a new era. Tesco opened its new flagship store in Douglas. This morning it's finished rebranding the old ShopRite on Victoria Road and has welcomed the first customers. These people were amongst the first to test out the new store.
I think it's lovely, to be honest. It's very spacious and everybody's delighted that it's open. It's lovely, really well stocked.
And what have you come in for today?
Baked potatoes, and I've come out with more than that.
Did you have a look at the clothing or anything like that?
I did, yes. I'll be back at lunchtime.
I think it's brilliant. It's like the stores across, because it's got wide aisles, not like the Tesco in town. It's just so much better. It really is.
And what did you come in for today?
I came in, I had to get a toaster for work, and I had to get some milk and bread because I've been across, and and I got some clothes because they're on special offer. So yeah. Okay.
And are you happy it's here?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, I know people. I'm from the Isle of Man, and I know people go, oh, ShopRite this and ShopRite that. But ShopRite sold up. So we're lucky that Tesco's come and bought in, because if they hadn't, what would we have had?
I think it's great. The aisles are superb, a lot wider. It's a lot easier shopping and well signposted.
And what have you come in for today?
Normal week shop.
Did you manage to find everything?
Eventually. It's like anything new, you just got to take your time.
But are you happy it's here?
Definitely.
Hi, it's Andy Sanderson, the store director at Tesco's for the Isle of Man. Really looking forward to seeing customers come in and give us some feedback on what they think of the new store, and hopefully they'll be really pleased with the range, the choice. We've brought in a number of local products, as we had in our Castletown store, but increased the range in this store, and you'll be able to identify those products with small red bubbles that say proud to sell Isle of Man products in our store. But we've really listened to what the great public of the Isle of Man wanted to see in this store, and hopefully they'll see that.
The Isle of Man's first ever professional female boxer, Jade Burden, has what it takes to go far in the sport, according to her coach of recent years. Peter Roberts explains how proud it's made him feel to see Jade get her licence to begin the step up into the pro ranks.
Made up for it, but see, when she first came to the gym, she came to the gym to lose weight. She'll tell you that herself. She played football, she's going to lose a bit of weight. She's got real fighting spirit. There's not many people going to get an easy day out of Jade. And then she's fell in love with the sport. She's boxed at top level. She's boxed some of the top girls in the world, and she's got that crisp. I'm made up for it. I'm just delighted. I just can't wait for the first pro fight. There's no denying Jade's drive, absolutely none at all. She's training almost full time now. She's got a job a bit more easy for her now. She sacrifices, she goes away. The biggest word, I always say when I'm doing courses, what's the biggest word in boxing? The biggest word to me is sacrifice. You can't go out with your mates. You can't go go to your parties, your weddings, your christenings, you've got to sacrifice them there. And she's done that. She's willing to do that. It's a very, very short span boxing, a very short span life. So for that limited time, you can make the best of it, put yourself in, and she's doing that. You know, I think she'll surprise a few people on the road. I really do. So what happens behind the scenes? People will see the finished article, they see Jade box, oh, that's great, that's brilliant. Yeah, what's next for Jade? What's next for Jade is back in the gym, get the next fight on the card. We need numbers, we need 5 or 6 bouts a year, first year. As I said, it's a short span. The females are a little bit different than the males. There's more opportunity out there, I think. You know, you go 5 or 6 fights unbeaten as a female, you put yourself in a title shot, English title, stroke area title, wherever it is, and that's what we're looking for Jade. So a successful year for Jade, for me, would be to stay unbeaten, to get 5 or 6 fights out of the way first.
Just how far, potentially, do you think she could go?
I'd say area title, English title for Jade. Jade can upset people. She's very physically very strong, very determined. I work with her day in, day out in the gym, and I'll have to tell her, right, the section's over. She wants to give that extra mile, and she's sparred with some top girls. She sparred with Rihanna Dixon there a couple of weeks ago, who's boxing for a world title fight soon. She's the current British and European Commonwealth champion, and I watched the spar. You know, they wouldn't let us film it, so we watched the spar, and it was a cracker, 6 rounds, really good. And Jade, if you had first walked into the gym, watched them sparring, you wouldn't have known who for the first couple of rounds. Obviously, Rihanna Dixon's a different level, and she took it away at the end, but, you know, for 3 or 4 rounds, Jade was more than competitive.
Update brought to you by Simcox Advocates, advising businesses and families since 1949. Visit simcox.com or call 690 300.
Faster Mites, 19 minutes before 6. Thanks for joining Manx Radio this Wednesday evening. A Ballasalla woman's been ordered to carry out unpaid work for the good of the Manx community after fraudulently claiming more than £7,000 in benefits. The story from Tessa Hawley.
Abby Cara Louise Gilman of Clack Vane was sentenced at Douglas Courthouse after pleading guilty to 4 offences of making false representations to obtain taxpayer-backed support. Between January and September last year, the 31-year-old made claims for job seekers allowance and income support, but failed to declare her true income or her correct address. It meant she was overpaid £7,039.46. The court had previously heard an investigation was started by Treasury after the department received an anonymous tip-off. Gilman's bank statements were analysed, which showed she was receiving money for work she was doing as a taxi driver and a sports coach. Utility bills from the Department of Infrastructure property she was supposed to be living at were also checked. They showed very little usage from January onwards. During sentencing, the court was told Gilman had previously been convicted for similar offences in 2016. Imposing a combination order of community service and 12 months probation, Deputy High Bailiff Rachel Braidwood told Gilman these offences were dishonest from the outset. You would have known income, in particular, needed to be declared. Gilman was also ordered to pay prosecution costs of £50. The court heard Gilman is repaying the overpayment from her benefits at a rate of £20 per week and has paid £400 off the total so far.
Manx Radio Business Briefing.
It's 17 minutes now before 6. An investigation into controversial former Endeavour mining boss Sebastian de Montessu found 2 more deliberately disguised payments totaling $15 million to an unnamed third party, the company said today. De Montessu was sacked in January after allegations he instructed the company to make an irregular and unreported $5.9 million payment in relation to an asset disposal. Endeavour, the British-based multinational mining company that owns and operates gold mines in the Ivory Coast, Burkina Faso and Senegal, commissioned Linklaters and EY to conduct a full probe and release key findings today. The report found that de Montessu and certain others outside the company instigated 2 payments worth $15 million, deliberately disguising them as advance payments to a contractor through repeated false representations to management. And for a full daily market report, go to ramseycrookall.com. A Japanese nappy maker is to stop making nappies for babies to focus on the market for adults. OG Holdings is the latest firm to make such a shift in a rapidly aging Japan, where birth rates are at a record low. Sales of adult nappies outpaced those for infants in the country. Over a decade ago, the number of babies born in Japan in 2023 was 758,631, down 5.1% from the previous year. It was also the lowest number of births on record in Japan since the 19th century. In the 1970s, Japanese mothers had more than 2 million babies in an average year. In a statement, OG Holdings said its subsidiary, OG Fiji Napia currently manufactures 400 million infant nappies annually. Production's been falling since 2001 when the company hit its peak of 700 million nappies. Back in 2011, Japan's biggest nappy maker, Unicharm, said then that its sales of adult diapers had surpassed those for babies.
The Stock Market Report, brought to you by Ramsey Crookall.
UK and European stocks closed slightly higher. The yen dropped to its lowest level since 1990. Oil fell and gold gained as investors awaited the US inflation data. The numbers from Ramsey Crookall at the close in London: the FTSE 100 up 0.1%, 7,931. The DAX in Frankfurt up just about 0.5% at 18,475. A short time ago in New York City, the Dow Jones Industrial up 0.6%, 39,528. The Nasdaq Tech Stocks Index up just over 0.1% at 16,336. And in Chicago, the S&P 500 up just over 0.33% at 5,221. In the exchange markets, the British pound sterling trading at $1 26.3 cents, €1 16.6 cents, and 23 South African rand 86.8 cents. In commodities, gold's up 0.6%, $2,191 per troy ounce, and a barrel of Brent crude down just over 0.1% at $85.16.
I'm running late again. Do you know where I put my car keys?
In the fridge.
Where's my phone?
Under the dog basket.
Bye.
You haven't forgotten that we're seeing Ramsey Crookall later?
Oh, no, of course not. 5 p.m, is it?
2:45.
I'll be there.
Life is busy. That's why Ramsey Crookall's team takes time to help you make a mindful investment decision, considering all the options, giving you full control of your financial future. Less stress, more assurance.
Forgot to put my shoes on.
Oh.
See how we can make your money work for you. Call 717171 or visit ramseycrookall.com. Licensed and regulated by the Isle of Man Financial Services Authority.
The Isle of Man in 30 minutes. Update on Manx Radio with Andy Wint.
Faster My parents are being encouraged to contact their GP if they're concerned about scarlet fever. The advice comes after a primary school confirmed a case of the bacterial infection. Although contagious, it can be treated with antibiotics. Dr. Helen Gregg says it's a common infection that children can pick up at this time of the year.
This is an infection that is very common and does affect children this time of year. This infection can be very easily treated effectively with antibiotics, but in very rare occasions children can become severely unwell. It is very important to know the signs and symptoms to watch out for if your child does deteriorate and what to do. Symptoms include sore throat, raised temperature, nausea and vomiting. On some occasions, 12 to 48 hours after the infection has started, children can get a rash, generally on the torso, sometimes on the face. This rash is normally a sandpaper type rash. If you feel that your child may have scarlet fever, please keep them at home and contact your GP. Or if it's out of hours, get in touch with the out of hours service meds. If they are very severe, you may also take them to the minor injury unit in Ramsey or to the emergency department in Douglas. As a parent, you know when your child is increasingly unwell, and it's good to go along with your own parental intuition on how your child is. But signs to look out for are high fever, muscle aches, vomiting and diarrhea, inability to keep fluids down. Please be aware that this time of year children do pick up a lot of infections, and scarlet fever is one of them. Very rarely is this severe, and this is usually treated very well with antibiotics. I just want you to know that we are here to help and support you in any way we can, but we are very used to having viruses and bugs affecting our children this time of year. It's all part of their development, or getting them ready to grow up and go out into the big world. So unfortunately, they can get bugs, and that's expected. Of course, there's always a doctor at the end of the line if you need them.
Manx Radio Sport.
Faster by Tessa Hawley.
Faster my Manx boxer Jade Burden has had her first professional fight confirmed. The Grenade will take to the ring on Saturday the 27th of April at Grand Central Hall in Liverpool. She'll take on Sheffield's Kerry Orton. The Commonwealth Games athlete and the island's first professional female boxer officially received her licence to box professionally in the sport last week. Fellow island boxer Jamie Devine 9 will also compete at the event. Manx archer Leslie Slight has set a new English archery record. She and Roger Slight, both members of Bowdern Vannin Field Archery Club, took part in the latest English Field Archery Association classification shoot on Sunday. Leslie smashed the English benchmark in the veteran ladies traditional recurve class for the marked Forrester round by 35 points. It means she now holds both the adult and veteran records in the class. Elsewhere, Roger managed a milestone with a new personal best score of 210 in the men's traditional recurve class. And a reminder that FC Isle of Man's match away at Colne has been postponed. The Ravens were due to play this evening in the NWCFL Premier Division. However, the game was called off yesterday due to a waterlogged pitch. The club has thanked Colne for providing them as much notice of the cancellation as possible, as well as the home side's efforts to attempt to find an alternative venue. A rearranged date for the fixture will be announced in due course. FC Isle of Man's next match will be at home at the Bowl, and that's with Chadderton on Easter Monday. Kick-off is at 6 p.m.
Manx Radio Travel, driven by Quayside Tyres and Service Centre.
Everything's clear at Ronaldsway. Next inbound, the 7:30 EasyJet from London Gatwick, 10 to 8 Loganair from London City, and the 5 to 8 returning patient transfer Loganair from Liverpool, all on time. Outbound, 6 o'clock Loganair to Liverpool's on time, and then it's the returning 8 o'clock EasyJet to London Gatwick, showing on time. On the roads in Douglas, got those temporary lights on Prospect Hill. Look out also at Hillside Avenue. The journey through to Circular Road is closed for adjacent office window replacement. A section of Switzerland Road is closed for construction work till November. Temporary lights on Brighton Terrace at the Mount Bradder junction for gas main replacement. Phase closures on the Starvey Road for water main work and water main work 2 on the Ballakilferrick Road. Some closures in Colby and Cairndrockard Road in Andreas, which is closed in phases. Emergency gas repairs in Onken, temporary lights on Whitebridge Road at the Ballacrint Drive junction, and between Bishop's Court and Ballaugh, temporary lights on the TT course for building work, temporary lights on the TT course at Ballaugh, the Ballacob junction for resurfacing. Then it's on to Kirkmichael for the next 2 weeks, and temporary lights north of Ballaugh for work on pavements, which will move towards Solby over the next 2 weeks. In Kirkmichael, temporary lights on the main road near Douglas Road corner for carriageway repairs, temporary lights on Bradden Road near Strang Close for a temporary crossing there, and in Laxey, temporary lights on New Road between Old Laxey Hill and Lurgy Graw for crane work.
Ask how you can spread the cost interest-free at
Quayside. And the matrix signs this evening showing no problems, including Hilbury, Sulby, Bagarrow and Ramsey to the mountain. All is clear. As far as the boats are concerned, the Maxman left Heysham at 11 minutes to 2. She arrived in Douglas just gone 5 o'clock. Will be departing this evening at 7:45, arriving in Heysham at 11:30. The 0215 from Heysham to Douglas is rescheduled to start 3/4 of an hour later at 3 o'clock. Manan and the Fastcraft left Douglas at 12 minutes to 4, arriving in Liverpool about 25 to 7, and the evening departure from Liverpool at 8 o'clock, back to Douglas at 10:45 this evening. Proposals to remove the Bishop's vote in Tynwald have been delayed again. The clauses of the private members' bill from Ramsey MHK Laurie Hooper were due for consideration in Keys this week, but they'll now be read later next month, with members wanting more time to assess the findings of the recent consultation. Mr. Hooper told Manx Radio he's expecting further attempts to hold it back.
I am expecting as well to see wrecking amendments being tabled, an amendment that on the face of it looks harmless and looks like it may be a positive thing, but actually in fact has the effect of killing the bill. I'm expecting to see all sorts of parliamentary games being played by people who are in opposition to the bill, rather than just simply saying, do we want this, yes or no, let's vote on it. I think there'll be a lot more game playing to come. Like I say, my position on this is, let's not drag it out, let's stop talking about the thing and let's just vote on it, make a decision, and then get on to the next thing that we need to be dealing with. I think it's fair to say that when I first stood for election back in 2016, I had a lot of conversations with voters around how difficult politics was and how difficult it was to get things done on the island and how difficult it was to get things done through Tynwald and the slow pace of change. And back then I told people that I was perfectly okay with that. Actually, my approach to politics and approach to doing this job is to just keep digging. When you're trying to move a mountain, one rock at a time, that kind of logic, just keep hammering away, whatever the issue is, whether it's this or something far more important. And ultimately that's the approach I'm taking on this. it is taking far longer than it should, but ultimately, if the willingness is there in the House of Keys, it will eventually happen. So ultimately, it's just about carrying on with that kind of treadmill approach and carrying on moving that mountain very, very slowly.
If next month goes your way, what comes after it?
So if the clause is complete next month, then the next step will be third reading, which will be another debate, probably another attempt to delay and prevaricate once again. And then if that is successful, then it will go off to the Legislative Council, where hopefully they will deal with it in, well, a much more streamlined manner.
Update brought to you by Simcox Advocates.
A UK Ombudsman's recommendation that women hit by the rise in the state pension age from 60 to 65 in 2018 should be paid compensation is being monitored by the Manx Treasury. The story with Simon Richardson.
A statement requested by Manx Radio says Treasury is aware of the UK media coverage concerning the Parliamentary Ombudsman's findings and recommendations. While the situation in the island is quite different to that in the UK, officers will continue to monitor developments. The report follows years of vigorous campaigning in the UK by WASPI, or Women Against State Pension Inequality. They had argued that insufficient information had been provided when the coalition government of the day decided in 2010 to raise the qualifying age for women to 65 in 2018, abandoning a previous plan to phase the change from 2010 to 2020. Campaigners claim women born in the 1950s have been treated unfairly and suffered financial and emotional distress. The Ombudsman has concluded women in the UK should receive an apology and payouts of between £1,000 and £2,950.
That's it for Update Tonight, compiled from the resources of Manx Radio's news department. Thanks to newsreader Chanel Suku, producer Amy Griffiths. After the news at 6, Howie Kane's along with Spotlight, the arts programme. Chris Kinley at 6:30 with the greatest hits, and Update returns tomorrow evening at 5:30.
WINT